Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Label. Today, if it's not obvious, we're going to be talking about Miller Welders, one of America's last truly vertical manufacturing centers. And we just so happen to live near the city where they're still made to this day, Appleton, Wisconsin. So come with us as we take a look, explore, and look at Miller Welders.
There you go.
So as part of this video, we actually have a kind of a neat little exclusive here. The Appleton History Museum actually has an exhibit right now featuring the history of Miller Electric. So we're gonna go in and check that out. It's a little bit different than Dad's welder, isn't it?
Is this like back?
This one's from the 1930s.
1930 welder?
Yep, the Wonder Arc.
For some reason, I can't remember what those are called, but it's
You work at Miller?
Miller did invent the first affordable electric arc welder. After Nell's initial success with his invention, he teamed up with John Mulder. John knew how to set up distribution for Nell's new welding equipment business. From the humble beginnings of a basement invention, thanks in part to the Miller family's 60 years of leadership.
See, this is closer than we have.
Electric has become a world leader in electric arc welding. From books to buildings, from cars to spacecraft, welding is the backbone of many industries that involve joining metal. We touch products that are welded every day of our lives. The welding industry is one of the
See, he built his first welder in his basement. Isn't that cool?
That's crazy. That's how you use the eyeball one. That's concentrated in smells.
but it all started over a century ago. Today, Miller Electric is a technology.
You know what's funny, Bryn? I've owned a Miller 35, a Syncrowave. I've owned a Max Star and a number of feeders, an XMT 304, a 215, and now we own a, what do we have? We have a 235 and a bunch of suitcase welders.
And satisfying our customers is the key to our success at Miller Electric. Our company is people-oriented, creating a safe and fun environment where we work together to build the future of the welding industry. Grew up on the Fox River. It's famous for the first hydroelectric power plant in the world. It was also known as Paper Valley. Paper mills lined the Fox River. They needed more electrical equipment, which created a prime market for Kurz and Root Company. 41-year-old Nels Miller was working in Appleton for Kurz and Root. In his spare time, Nels tinkered in his basement with the hope of creating the first affordable electric arc welder. His new idea would enable farmers and industry to join metal together and create new products, and also fix existing equipment. Nels Miller did invent the first affordable electric arc welder.
You got nothing to hide.
So just a little bonus on this episode. This was too cool not to put in the video, but this is from the Courtney Woolen Mill right here in Appleton, Wisconsin. And up until 2 years ago, this machine was still running, albeit no longer powered by a water wheel, but was still turning wool into a batting material. And the Appleton Museum and the owner were not only kind enough to put it on display for everyone to see, but they actually still have it running, and it still remains fully functional to this day. So wool, right, would go up into the hopper, it would work its way down, get wrapped up and combined through the different rolls and processes, and ultimately wind up wrapping on this original wooden barrel. And the museum curator just came in and actually said that the owner still comes in once every couple weeks to do maintenance on this machine, and even left the tools that he uses to do that maintenance on one of the original wooden benches from the factory. And this factory, I believe, began in the early 1800s and has ran on this machine since then. So a quick correction on that, 1880 is when the mill began and when this piece was installed and operating, and this piece was put in later, kind of turn of the century, so no one would have to manually feed copper in the machine anymore. Very cool. So we're back at the shop now after our tour by the facility and the museum, and we're going to talk about Miller Welders for a little bit. And obviously I don't have a whole shop of welders to show you, but as I stated in the video, I have owned almost one of every welder Miller has made, up to and including a Powcon welder, which is the company Miller bought to acquire their inverter-based technology. I used to run a business where I bought, refurbished, resold welders on the daily before auction prices got crazy high for welders. So we're going to look at the welder I have now and just talk a little bit about past, present, and future. Sound good? All right, stick around. So we're going to talk a little bit about welders, and I figured I might as well wear my Miller welding jacket. Now, like any and all the videos I do, I'm not sponsored by any of these, so it's just my opinion. And when I say I've owned like almost every welder Miller has made, I've also owned half a dozen or so Chinese welders, Harbor Freight welders, off-brand other welders, Lincoln, Rebel, you get the drift. But I've always find myself coming back to Miller or saving one of the welders I refurbished for myself. Now, people will say, oh, they're not what they're used to be. You got to take all that with a grain of salt, right? I would say vehicles aren't what they used to be, right? Look at the gauge of metal on new vehicles versus old. Look at the reliability of older engines versus new. There's always trade-off, right? People want lighter, cheaper, relatively speaking, of course, and they want like a piece of equipment to replace years of training, right? I'm not telling you that you could just be a Joe Blow off the street, pick up a Miller multi-matic welder, you know, and start passing car tests and x-rays, but it's certainly, the technology makes it easier to lay a decent bead than it would have back in the day. And a lot of the math and the guesswork now is done automatically, right? And that's the trade-off. You get a lighter product with more technology to make it easier versus a welder, you know, with big, heavy transformers and coils of copper in it, right? When you start talking transformer-based welders versus inverter, right, there's a trade-off. Less technology, more reliable, you could say, right, to a degree. Newer welders, less copper and less heavy parts, more technology, you know, like anything else, potentially more little doodads to potentially go wrong. But what I like to say is when you stick with a brand like Miller, it's a lot like John Deere. Yeah, there's a premium there, but you're almost guaranteed that spare parts for these things are going to be available years and years and years after you buy it, right? Like, look what you can get for I think you can still get parts for like a 100-year-old John Deere tractor. You know, show me another manufacturer that can do that, right? There's not a lot. I would argue maybe Miller's one of them. So this is an inverter-based welder. I would even say this is a microprocessor inverter-based welder. So what I mean by that is we'll turn this on. You'll see on the screen here. This one is still set up for body work, and I'll take you in here so you can look at it. But I got this one set up with a, what do I got in here? I think this is 024 wire guide, 024 wire, and the dies, the drive wheels and everything. And this is, I will say, I don't know if I was gonna say their top tier welder right now for a hobbyist. If you had the money to spend, it would probably be like a Multimatic 220. just because it has the ability to also do things like TIG weld aluminum. But if I ever needed to do that, I could always get a spool gun, hook it up to this one, and be on my merry way. If you've seen other videos that I've done on my other channel, you know I'm not a professional welder, as I like to joke. But as you can see, plastic handles, metal case, still pretty sturdy. I would argue that the case itself seems to be about of the same gauge as the past welders. I have it. This one has, you know, been bumped into the lift, rolled around my shop. I haven't cracked any of the plastics yet. The screen, actually, I still left the factory screen protector on there. It's good enough. This one is their 235, and it'll basically do everything but aluminum TIG. And it gives me that little bit of extra current. If I wanted to weld some half-inch steel together, this will just take me less passes to do it. And truth be told, I got a killer deal on it. Not from Miller, but from someone selling it out of their garage. Basically, almost brand new in the box. Kid you not. What else can I say about Miller? When I say they probably lay the best bead in industry, again, I'm not a professional welder. I've had maybe a couple $100 of instruction 20 years ago at the tech college. But I like their fittings. I like the way they build these, and I have personally toured their facility, although I can't take you with me on those tours. I can promise you, like, the vast majority of these are still made by hand, which is super awesome. Really cool. And they give you a lot of different things you can do with it. Different length of guns. You can do different sleeves. Their Multimatic series is just a very good welder. Let me take you in here a little closer. We'll look at some bits and pieces of this, and ultimately you can make the decision for yourself. But if you guys had the money to spend, or you're like, do I spend the extra $500, right? If you're close on a Miller, get the Miller. It's one of those things that you will never regret it long term. I regret wasting the money on a whole bunch of Chinese welders just to learn that they don't perform as advertised. Oh, shocker. Or they create more headaches down the road. All right, so I think I have it plugged in yet. Yep. So, and we're not going to do a full product review on this. We'll just go through some of the menu. And this is the other thing that I really like, is they keep the menu simple. I kid you not, some of the other welders, there are just 17 subsections of buried menu, and it drives me bonkers. I have 75-25 running. All that is settable. But if I'm like, I know on this weld I'm going to want just a little bit more, great. Otherwise, you hit the auto set. And now you can we turned auto set off. You can kind of dial that in regardless. If you turn that back on, you can just jump to your gauge and it'll reset, right? Not that you can't still be in here making adjustments, but part of the auto set is it's always trying to read. See the target versus, it might be hard to see, target versus manual adjustment. But it's always going to try to be getting a feel of how much voltage and current it's putting out and making adjustments, where if you just want a more simple welding experience, this is very common to like the digital Miller 252s, where you can just set your voltage, inches per minute separately. But I've had really no problem using the auto set. I happen to agree with another professional welder friend of mine that he says they can turn an apprentice into a master welder. Obviously, he's over-exaggerating, but you get the point. So we'll just go up here, this menu. These are all the processes it can do. So if we go down a stick, it's probably going to tell me error. Yep. See, this one's also smart enough to let you know, like, hey, doofus, like, you don't have cables in the right spot. You still have things plugged in that shouldn't be. It tells you, like, hey, here's how you can set up. That might be very hard to capture on this camera. But if I look at, you can kind of see it tells you where to connect the gun for doing MIG steel, right? So what orientation the positive and negative cable should be in for whatever process you're doing. And like all Miller welders, they also give you a lot of that on here. I really like that they give you a menu explanation. And then, hey, here are all some manual recommended settings. You can also find these on the Miller app. Used to have them on little cards that came with welders. But I also like that they put the drive roll kits on here, so you don't have to guess like, hey, what roller kit does this specific welder take? You can just kind of go here, get the part number, and order it online or through a distributor. Again, it fits on this cart very nicely. Let me back out so you can see that. And here on the back, here are your two gas, I guess, inputs to the welder. We'll call them that. Get a MIG and a TIG, pretty obvious. And then again, big heavy duty core grip coming off this. I really like that. All your electrical specs are on the back. There's really not a lot to it, which is part of the reason I like it. Super simple user interface, and it just does what it's supposed to do, and that is weld. You don't have to spend this much money. They make a Multimatic. I think I know they make a 215. Like I said, they make a Multimatic 220, 235, and I know they make like a 255 and even a real big one now, and I forget what that one is. But if you're looking for a quality product, stick with a Miller. And I can already hear some of the comments. I know I can hear you typing the comments about, hey, what about a Hobart, this and that. I would say I have had a Hobart and a Miller apart. Specifically, I've had the Hobart TIG welder, and I've had the Miller equivalent on, when that bench used to be one height, next to each other. And I can tell you the components are not the same. There's a reason that the Hobart welders are less expensive. Let's just put it that way. So again, if you have the extra $500, $800, even if you have to go down a model series, I promise you will gain in the long run with the Miller welder. And that's just me after doing this for, 15 plus years. So you don't have to take my word for it, but it could be one of my favorite products, and it's one of the products I'm always finding myself coming back to. So thanks for catching another episode of Beyond the Label. I'm sure the last one where we looked at the Spray 9 probably wasn't the most popular, and I get that, but it's still a great product, still made in the US, and I'm going to have some videos like that. So if you don't watch them, I totally get it. But if you like videos like this, please hit that like and subscribe. I very much appreciate it. It doesn't cost you, the viewer, anything, but it does help me and helps the channel. Gives me a little motivation to keep making videos like this for you guys. So until next time, thanks for watching Beyond the Label.